This is the Ideapad. Okay, in this video I'm going to take this Lenovo Ideapad. The model is down below there, as you can see, and I'm going to take a new SSD hard drive, and I'm going to install it. I'm going to go through all the different steps that I need to prepare it, to put the operating system on it, and then finally in the boot manager arrange it so this starts up first and you have a new hard drive and operating system all ready to go. So first, let me show you the back and where it goes. So let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 6, 7, 8, 11 screws. So here it is in this area right here. As you can see, I've already installed the card. I had a little trouble with the screw and I didn't have a washer, so I kind of improvised there, and there's a better fix for that. But basically you would just kind of put it in kind of at a little angle, flopped up just a tad bit, and then push it down and then screw that right in. And this is a ADATA. It's a SATA 3D Nano SSD. Good price, I guess, 32, and that's what I used for this Lenovo. So make sure your Lenovo is the same, or if your Lenovo is a little different, make sure you've got the right memory. Make sure, if it requires SATA or what it is. Mine required M.2 2280, and I will get into my other problem. Now, I got the wrong enclosure, but I got the M2 right, but the NVMe I don't think was correct. I just looked at the 2280 here down below in the description, and I thought, it must be compatible, but this was not. So you must not be able to use the NVMe /SATA. I just thought that it would be the M2 SATA, or if it did work, when I plugged it into different computers, it would show that it existed, but I couldn't do any work on the SSD card itself. Okay, so I thought, well, what the heck? If this enclosure does not work, let me go ahead and just install it anyway. So I installed it anyway, and that worked out just fine. So I will go through how to basically prepare the SSD. So all you need to do is just install it. You don't need to do anything to it just yet. So once you install it, tie it down or secure it down so it does not flop or rattle. I had mine rattle, so put something underneath or a washer if you can, anything to secure this so this does not move. Okay, so the next part, I'm going to go through all the steps on the actual Windows 10, let me see, I think it's 10H2 or 20H2, and that will be next. Okay, now that we've got the memory installed, I'm going to show you all the steps you need to do to condition that SSD to work. So let's go to the operating system. Basically what we're going to do is, since we have an empty SSD, we're going to use Mini Tool Partition Wizard. Get the free one. The Pro does have some advantages, and I'll get to that. So basically, you're going to have a couple disks. You'll tell by this. You'll be able to tell by the size. The one that comes with the Ideapad is, it says 29 gig. Okay, so I think when I first started, this was reversed. The discs, they were switched around, so you can tell by the size. Well, actually, what you'll see is like this area right here, all unallocated. So what you're going to need to do, since this is going to be all unallocated, you need to create a partition. So the whole thing would be highlighted, and then you would create a partition, and that would be NTFS. And go ahead and hit apply when you're ready. And so that will quickly, within seconds, make that SSD NT file system. Because that's the system NTFS of the 29 gig internal SSD. So once you've got that step done, you're ready to copy over make a duplicate or clone of your existing operating system. So with that, I like Macroom Reflect. It is also free. So get the newest version or the version that will work for your machine and run it, and you will have the new, let's just go by the size here. Since I know this is a 29 gig, this is where the real operating system exists. And it's so small I couldn't upgrade the operating system. So that's one reason why I'm doing this. So here's the 256 gig one. As you can see, I've already worked on it and it's in good shape. But if this was all NTFS, just one long empty storage, basically you would come down to the operating system that you currently have. Then you go to clone this disk. So it will go through a little thing here to where, okay, this is the source, and select the disk to clone, and then you would just click the 256 gig or whatever size SSD you got. And then that's it. You would just hit finish or next, and that will take maybe a half an hour, something like that. And then you'll have a duplicate on your new SSD 256 gig. So once that's done, it'll look exactly like this. I think yours might be a little bit different, but this has a Windows recovery, and I got rid of that mainly because when it does its clone, it will do the exact same size as what your original SSD, onboard SSD has. So we want to utilize that unallocated space, and it will show up, I think, at the very end. So I didn't want this Windows RE drive. There might be another way to move it around with a Pro version, but what I did was I just deleted it up here in the 256 gig part. I just deleted it, unallocated it, then I went to resize, move or resize, and then utilize the rest of the memory. So that's how I work mine. You might try different methods to actually, maybe you probably could just add to the Windows RE, then you could resize that and make it like 1 gig or 1000 megs, and then unallocate the rest of that and push the Windows RE to the end. That way, when you want to recover that memory, you can attach it next to the the operating system. But that was quite a bit to go through, and I plan to brick the operating system at 22H2, and I do backups on another hard drive with the Macroom Reflect, so I don't really need the Windows recovery because I don't plan to use it. So that's my reasoning on that. So, okay, once you've got it, you're ready to go to the last part, which is the BIOS. But before we get to that, I saw in other videos where you can go to the boot manager. So you go to settings, go to update and security, and you would go to recovery. So here it gives you an advanced startup from a device or disk, such as a USB. Now, let me go ahead and log off, and I will show you this briefly, because yours might be different in that it picks up the SSD 256 gig that we just applied. Now, on the other video I saw, they had use a device and had the USB, and then it had another one which it was just a hard drive, and it actually had the solid state drive. So if that's the case, all you would have to do is just select the hard drive and let the boot manager, Windows Boot Manager, select that as your first boot up. So that would be my first thing. But if it doesn't come up, then you're going to have to go through the BIOS. There's different troubleshooting things in here. I even went to use this device, and I picked, this is the hard drive, ADATA, and that's the one. But for some reason, it did not take. It kept on bringing up the internal. But you might try this first before you go into the BIOS. So I would definitely go in to use this device, try this, reboot, and then when you look at drive C and properties, look at the size. If it says 256 gig or whatever the new SSD is, success. But if it says the old size, this really will not work. You might even want to try the ATA HDD, but if it has the name of the actual SSD, and if this doesn't work, I don't think you'll be that successful. So if this doesn't work by choosing this and rebooting or whatever, then my next part is going to be the BIOS, and that's how I got this Lenovo to work, by changing the BIOS. So stay tuned for that next part. Okay, this is the final step. Once you have your new SSD in and configured, partition created, operating system on there, basically you hit F2, and when you start it up, keep hitting F2, and then you'll get to the BIOS here. Basically, you would go with the arrow keys over to boot, and then you'd configure how you wanted, in what priority your boot should go. So this is your last step. Basically, I have like a USB, FDD, and then here's your ATA, the ADATA, and then the serial number of the new SSD 256 gig. Then I put the ATA HDD there, then the Windows Boot Manager. Before, the Windows Boot Manager was number one, and I don't exactly remember the full order. But that's it. I just put the new hard drive as number two. As long as that's got an operating system and is bootable, it should work. And then you would just go to exit and hit enter, save changes, and that's it. Hope that helps, and keep coming back to this channel for great videos. This is the Ideapad.